thanks for tuning in. We're back here with Dylan at Showcase Comics in Lethbridge.
Just more crazy nerd conversations.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about Black Panther. Came out last week. It's another, arguably a juggernaut of a film.
Yeah, and a B-movie character, another B-movie character.
Well, yeah. So this is what's really bugging me is that Marvel can just keep coming out, and they bring out Guardians of the Galaxy, they bring out Doctor Strange, and if you're a sweaty comic book guy, you know all these guys. But the average moviegoer doesn't, and yet they still manage to just churn these out and make people buy into it. And but on the other hand, you've got DC, who's got recognizable.
Yeah, recognizable.
They've got
Superman,
brand recognition.
Batman, Wonder Woman sell more lunch kits than anyone else. I'll throw Spider-Man in there too. But those are recognizable pop culture icons. That's T-shirts, lunch pails, everything for the last 50 years. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Now, Batman movies aside, they can't make a good Superman movie.
Yeah.
They made a good Wonder Woman movie, but they kind of had to. They took what some studios would consider chances to do it. But where's the B-movie characters? Like where's Superman's? Someone said recently, Blade. Where's Blade for DC Comics? There just isn't one. Meanwhile, Black Lightning. I mean, the Flash, who comic book wise is a bit of a B-movie character, right? Smallville, which is basically a Superboy story. How do those get so big on TV? But they can't make a decent Superman movie on the big screen. I mean that's the one thing that frustrates me. And I'm a DC Comics reader. I read everything, but I would identify as a DC guy. And yet they just can't get it right in the movies. The Green Lantern movie was terrible, right? Meanwhile, Marvel launches a multi-billion-dollar industry off of Iron Man.
Yeah.
And before the movie, even in the comic books, Iron Man was B. He was definitely a B-grade hero. I mean, his books sold all right. He had a couple of sort of well-known storylines, right? But come on, Iron Man was Iron Man. He wasn't Captain America. He wasn't Spider-Man.
So in comic books, Ant-Man's spearheading the Avengers, whereas in now in the movie universe, you've got Iron Man, because that's where they used that as their springboard, so that they couldn't retroactively go back and be like, oh, by the way, actually that's not how it was.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that how good would Ant-Man have been if Edgar Wright had been able to tell the story his way? Because I think what Marvel's found that works with those sort of the B movies, which I'd say Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, who are some of the other, Iron Man when he started. But I mean, especially with Ant-Man, is the quirky parts of Ant-Man are what made it work. Yeah. When you look at Captain America Civil War, what I think really helped it was Spider-Man was actually a wisecracking teen, so they were able to have, there's genuine moments in there. Guardians of the Galaxy, okay, for those that don't remember, in the early 90s, Guardians of the Galaxy was a decent comic book. It was written and drawn by a guy named Jim Valentino. He left to form Image Comics, right? So he was one of those Image Comics founders, definitely the least of them, okay? So that was a great run for Guardians of the Galaxy. The 20 years before that and the 20 years after that, nothing. Nobody cared about Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think I have a comic book somewhere that's 1960s or 19, somewhere else where it's
girl with flaming hair, big chunky dude, guy with weird loops coming out of his back, and a kid named Vance Astrovic, whose most famous thing is that his younger self got angry and killed his father. Yeah. That's that's the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comic book.
Yeah.
They relaunched it with better characters. It still didn't sell well.
Yeah.
It's still not like Walking Dead sales figures. But Guardians of the Galaxy is an amazing movie. And stupid, quirky, B-grade characters, right? That's what Marvel, I think, has found. That'll drive the in-between years, right?
Yeah.
And then you can use your Captain Americas and your Spider-Mans and your Iron Mans to drive everything else. But how do they do it? What, a sense of humor helps, right?
Well, the color palette's different, right? The color palette to the DC movies versus the Marvel movies is completely different.
Well, the Marvel movies have color.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big difference. They haven't tamped it down with that. What are they? The filter should be called morose, right?
Yeah.
That's the name of the filter, should be morose, because it's so flat and angry and boring of a color palette. And that's now DC hitched their train to Zack Snyder, and love him or hate him. My biggest problem with Justice League was that we never actually saw an artist's vision of Justice League. We saw what the studio had to make Justice League into after they decided they didn't want to follow Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
What I think Marvel's done is, from the very outset, Marvel said, no, we're going to have a look to all our movies. We're going to have a style of they've Disneyfied all their superhero movies.
Yeah.
the Justice League line of movies sort of, they wanted to make angry killing machine Superman, but they didn't follow that through.
Yeah.
They half-assed it. Can I say half-assed it?
You can say whatever. You can say whatever you want.
But they half-assed it, and I just think that's part of the problem with the DC stuff is they're half-assing it, right?
Yeah.
The CW TV shows, which are successful, so Black Lightning, Flash, Supergirl, they're successful because they're kind of Disneyfied right off the bat. They're sort of Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah,
Where there's a palette to those shows. They're light, they're breezy, but they still tackle some fun some good, solid, real-world topics. But that's the thing. They have an idea from the get-go, whereas it just seems like with the Superman movies and leading into Justice League, not really. Like even Wonder Woman could have been a little brighter.
Yeah.
Right? Like she should be you can't say that Superman's a shining symbol of hope and then mash down his color palette.
Yeah.
You can't do that, because saying he's a shining beacon of hope doesn't make him one. So actually write your character as that.
So do you think of a part of it is that they're rushing in one sense, like just rushing out scripts, rushing out films, not because I mean you look at the Marvel universe and this is built up over 10 years, and in 2 years they're trying to be like, let's put out all these films and do you think part of the problem is that they're not letting their characters breathe?
This is the difference between filmmaker and fan.
Yeah.
Is that I never think, well, they're rushing the movies out, right? But you're like, no, these are rushed out. They are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, DC wanted to build a cinematic universe, so they patched 10 minutes worth of footage onto the end of a Superman movie and said, here's our big cinematic universe. Whereas Marvel put references and post-credit scenes in movies for 7 years before you saw that. Like the build-up to Avengers in Iron Man movies was amazing.
Yeah.
The Captain America movie was a build-up to an Avengers movie. You're absolutely right. There was time taken, and with time comes thought put into it, and that's one of the things with Justice League. Not a lot of thought put into it. Like just the very basis of their characters is wrong. I say this to people all the time. Superman is not a Jesus figure.
Yeah.
So when you see him treated as the sacrificed his life figure in comic books, no, that's not Superman. Superman's Moses, not Jesus. Superman, created by 2 Jewish kids in Cleveland, Ohio. One of them was Canadian, but they were 2 Jewish kids. Jewish kids don't write Jesus metaphors.
No.
Moses. He's Moses. And Russell Crowe says it in the first Superman movie. He says, lead them.
Yeah.
So Superman can lead humanity to a better place, but he can't go there because he's not a human. That's one of the key things. The alien among us is one of the key things about Superman. It's never explored in those movies.
Yeah.
It's part of what misfit kids loved about Superman is as strong, as powerful, as amazing as he is, he's not one of us.
Yeah.
Right? And let's face it, little misfit comic book reading kids, they don't feel like they're one of us.
No, and
right?
you want to give a person a character that they can aspire to. Well, which is part of why Black Panther is kind of one of these important movies at the moment, is because it's giving a whole ignored.
A completely disenfranchised people movie-wise, right?
Yeah, they just be like, here's your guy to look up to, and that's that's one angle of making a superhero movie.
Yeah. Make it relevant, right? Yeah. Look at the numbers. The numbers from Black Panther are so uplifting because one, if you look like us, it's a great superhero movie.
Yeah.
If you don't look like us, it's a movie that shows someone who looks like you. We forget because so many heroes in comic books and movies look like me. They're white people, right? Yeah. Think about if you're a young black kid and you see a hero who looks like you. And don't get me wrong, heroes don't actually look like me. I'm a short, overweight guy.
Yeah.
But I see myself in those heroes. Now you're a black kid or a black teenager or a black comic book fan who's been reading Captain America for years, and all of a sudden this hero looks like you. You see things of yourself in this hero, right? Heritage, skin color, whatever it is. When we look at these heroes, we see the parts of ourselves, right? This is why Black Panther reaches out to people. This is why people find it. This is why representation's important in movies, right? You should be able to look at a movie and say, I see parts of myself in that. And people do. Black kids read Captain America and they see things of themselves in Captain America. But when he looks like you, that means more. And that's why there was a Washington Post film reviewer who said the lineup outside the theater for Black Panther was fully integrated.
Yeah.
50-50 split. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It was the first time this reviewer had ever seen that, a completely integrated crowd. And for me, as a comic book fan, it's everybody nerding out over Black Panther.
Yeah.
There are strong female role models in Black Panther. There are also black female role models in Black Panther. There's a strong black main character in Black Panther. Marvel I mean, they push their chips on the table there because it backfires in today's climate. It really backfires, but they took a chance and they're going to make $1 billion off this.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Like it's still Black Panther is still a studio movie. It's got all the studio tropes and everything, but like it accomplished something that these other superhero movies have failed to do so far, with the exception maybe of Wonder Woman. Right?
Yeah.
Wonder Woman did the same thing for DC, where it's an empowering movie.
For like female audience viewers, you know, like it's that same idea. It's connecting to.
Well, and not only and locally, I mean, with the inclusion, like I always say, Eugene Braverock, right? So Gene Braverock appears in Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Introduces himself to her in Blackfoot, like speaking a language that I know a lot of people around here speak.
Yeah.
Introduces himself in Blackfoot. He's a guy from around here. There are kids that look at him and go, Wonder Woman's superhero friend looks just like me. It's little things like that.
Yeah.
And that's what sets Wonder Woman apart from Justice League. Where's that moment in Justice League?
You take Justice League and it just feels like honestly, in my opinion, it looks like Warner Brothers took this property and they were like, we don't need to put a story. We've got recognizable characters and stars. We don't... But this doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. We're just mashing this up and churning it out. Yeah. We'll make money. Don't worry.
Marvel's finding it with this Avengers Infinity War. So the last Avengers movie wasn't really actually that good, right? Like Age of Ultron was so-so. It was pretty standard, pretty formulaic. They're experiencing backlash with Thanos.
Yeah.
Because they haven't really developed Thanos as a villain. He's appeared in a post-credit sequence here. Like, all the thought we're talking about they put into Ant-Man and all these other properties, they haven't put that into Thanos, who's their big bad in the new movie. So I think what we're going to see with this new Avengers movie is they've gone a little DC with it.
Yeah.
They've failed a little bit with this Thanos thing. Now, here's the advantage of the Avengers movie. Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, they're throwing everything in it so people are going to show up.
You've got all your successes leading up to it. So you can...
you can make a bad movie. Marvel can make a bad
movie. When you've got a dozen or so movies out there, it's okay to have a misstep now and then. But when almost every one of your movies is not either a misstep or divisive, like no, you can't. That's the problem. Is you'll have people that say, "Oh, this is a great movie," and that's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But where's the Marvel movie people hate?
Yeah,
there isn't one.
But
right?
yeah, that's when you go into that theater, you know you're gonna at least have a good time, like hands down. And at the very least, you'll be like, it's not as good as this one.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, and the thing is that one thing Marvel's done well is they've brought the floor up on superhero movies.
Yeah.
So look at Mission Impossible, the movie franchise, is another one. The worst Mission Impossible movie, the floor of it, it's still pretty good, right? The worst Marvel movie, still pretty good. The worst DC movie is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a horror show, right? It's got stupid dream sequences and Batman wearing goggles over his mask. Like, the stupidity of the worst of the DC movies is so low, they haven't brought that floor up. And that floor is important because if Age of Ultron is the worst of the Marvel movies, who was actually angry about Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah,
like first of all, it ended on a happy note with the death of that terrible Quicksilver character, right? So everyone was happy to see that. We're happy never to see Aaron Johnson in another blockbuster movie.
But what's actually interesting about that, like you bring that up, is that like this is one of my gripes about of the Dawn of Justice is that they couldn't commit to Superman's death. You know, like Quicksilver, they killed Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And like there's stakes. So even though, like, in the back of your head, you've got to know that Superman at some point is coming back. That, like, ground-shaking scene was just...
Yeah,
like,
no.
Why?
You knew he was coming back in the next movie.
It takes away from any of that feeling, that loss. You're like, I was feeling sad for, like, 2 seconds. You really got me right here. Now, never mind. You just threw it away in, like, 2 seconds.
But it's the problem with the scripts of those movies is that they keep telling you everything you need to know about Superman. They don't show you anything.
Over exposition.
Yeah.
You know.
It's that sort of like, well, we're going to tell you he's a beacon of hope and the people love him by showing you a crowd shot of people that support him.
Yeah.
How about have him do something that makes because you're not talking to the crowd in your fictional universe. You're talking to the people in the theater. Do something so the people in the theater feel that. Do something so that when Superman dies at the hands of that gooey Barba Papa thing that killed him in the Dawn of Justice, because honestly that ropey CGI was terrible. Doomsday, it didn't look like Doomsday, it looked like Barba Papa, and I just think that when that killed him, it was like I can't wait for Justice League, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when he comes back in Justice League, and honestly, a better creative decision than the way they brought him back in Justice League would have been to leave the mustache in. Be like, yeah, no, his hair kept growing
he's
after he
different.
died.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
he's
Nobody
just
shaved him. Kryptonians don't grow hair in their face after they die. That's they should have left him with a cheesy stash because it just turned out badly for them. Now they can save it because how good was Jason Momoa as Aquaman?
Yeah.
They took a chance with Aquaman. They made him a bit of a wisecracker, kind of that surfer dude. I don't give a crap mentality. The Aquaman movie gives you hope that they've learned the lessons from Wonder Woman, right? So maybe DC is putting more thought into stuff now. Yeah. It's just too bad that it took them like 4 movies to do that.
Yeah, well, like you said, rushing, right? Like, and now you sit back and be like, okay, maybe we need to pump the brakes a bit.
Yeah. A movie that disappoints makes you slow down, right?
Like, let's maybe let's use Flashpoint to just like kind of soft reboot it.
Except that also, like, what were the high points of Justice League? Flash and Cyborg.
Yeah.
Or Flash and Jason Momoa's Aquaman. Cyborg was a complete waste.
Yeah.
But you've got hope in 2 characters. Give us those 2 characters.
Yeah.
Build those 2 characters. Give us a good movie with those 2 characters. Wonder Woman 2, if Patty Jenkins is directing it, is fantastic. Instead of giving Zack Snyder the direction of your superhero movies, give it to Patty Jenkins.
Yeah.
She's made you money.
Well, get that Kevin. Was it Kevin Feige?
Yeah, get a Kevin Feige. Get a guy like that who's got a vision. Because as much as I always tell people I'd love to see the Edgar Wright Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Kevin Feige and a studio put their fingers in it. They still made a good movie, but an Edgar Wright Ant-Man could have been really quirky, right? And to me, I point to the dance scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
That was great. Give me a movie that has that kind of quirkiness to it, right? That's willing to spend 5 minutes on a dance scene in a movie. I can live with that. I worry a little bit that Marvel, because of the success of the movies, is going to struggle to find creators. Like, they left Ryan Coogler alone for Black Panther, except that Coogler seems to be a studio-friendly director where he included certain things. But, I mean, even he talks about they rushed him along. Like, Black Panther was not a movie with a long gestation period, right?
Yeah.
Like, there were things they rushed in. But I think they gave the right director the controls. And that's one thing that DC's been getting wrong, is they hitched their wagon to Zack Snyder. He was the wrong guy.
And you're like, I mean, well, he did a good job with The Watchmen. And so, or
he translated the comic book into a movie pretty well.
Yeah.
I don't know that means he made a great movie or like he made a faithful adaptation.
Like, I can see where if you looked at that, you could say, oh, well, he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can understand the thought process that went into it. But
but then he had a story in Watchmen. The Superman story he's told has no translation in the comic book. And one thing Marvel's done well is they steal from their comic books constantly. Right?
Yeah.
Like, with the exception maybe of Ant-Man, every one of their big moments is kind of a big moment that's already played out in the comic books, right?
Yeah.
The big failure is Avengers Infinity War, which was, a plot of someone else's design, didn't come from the comics.
Yeah.
So they probably need to go back to stealing from the comics, because if Superman stole from the comics a better version of the Doomsday death, take Batman out of it, let Batman go do his own thing, that's a better story than what they ended up putting on film.
Okay, so this being said, if you could imagine like a lesser known DC property getting a Marvel treatment, what would it be? And why? Deadman.
I give you Deadman. Look, DC has great B characters. Deathstroke, right?
Yeah.
Don't make Deathstroke the villain in another hero's story. Make him the villain of his own story. The Teen Titans have never been handled properly, right?
Yeah.
You could, thanks to the fact that everybody knows Batman's origin story and everyone knows who Robin is, you could do Nightwing, right? You could do this in a series of films. Deadman's just one. There's, other ones, Constantine. They made a Constantine movie, but they made a really good Constantine TV show.
Yeah.
So they misfired there, and I think that scared them off the B characters. I mean, there's lots, and there's lots that have their own comics. I'm looking at them right now, right? Like this, like I say, Deadman's the first one that comes to mind, but they've got, I mean, Black Lightning is another great choice. Black Lightning should have been in a movie.
Yeah.
The Jefferson Pierce character, his history belongs there. Katana from Suicide Squad. Now, I'm not saying make it part of your expanded universe, but Katana is someone who the souls of her dead enemies inhabit her sword. Would have made a great sort of grab an indie movie creator, someone who does wire fighting, things like that. Make Katana into a movie.
Well, that's the other thing is do you think that like probably when DC looks at Marvel, they're like, they've got a universe. We need to have a universe too. Like, what's wrong with making the independent standalone film anymore?
So I'm a believer in Jack Kirby's The Fourth World, right? Which is when Jack Kirby got sick and tired of Marvel screwing him over, he came over to DC Comics. He created The Fourth World, which is Orion, Darkseid, Mr. Miracle, all this stuff. You you could build a film franchise in the back of that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. They've already screwed it up though by having Steppenwolf show up with no context at all,
Yeah.
and not enough references to Darkseid. Steppenwolf shows up as the bad guy in your Justice League movie. Look, guys, it's got to be Darkseid. Your bad guy is Darkseid, but completely separate from Superman, Flash, everyone, because all those fourth world characters were never Justice League enemies.
Yeah.
You could make a fourth world series of movies. You could do Mr. Miracle, give your crazy indie director Mr. Miracle. The Forever People are a group of hippies that drive a superbike, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could make those movies quirky, fun, amazing, and I think it would sell. So there's all that. As for like a standalone movie, like I say, Katana, Black Lightning would have been a great standalone movie, right? There's a lot of characters. I mean, Deathstroke, Deadpool was a Deathstroke ripoff, right? Like,
Yeah.
Deathstroke's another great sort of the weird mercenary vengeful aspect. There's so many other things, and there's even side stories of Batman that would make great stories. There's a series of Batman stories that take place sort of him hunting down Jack the Ripper, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those are the stories you could make a standalone independent movie but still trade on the Batman name. And DC just Warner Brothers doesn't do it. I should stop saying DC. It's not DC Comics for it's Warner Brothers. Yeah.
But it's hard to talk about film properties and not talk about it in terms of a DC film versus a Marvel film, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and as comic book fans, we're conditioned for it, right? I mean, in this store, we have a lot of people that read Marvel comics and a lot of people that read DC comics, and everybody's got an opinion about which is better. Everybody does, right?
See, and this is where I guess we'll kind of land on this point, but this is where I feel like as like comic book fans, you need to stop having a divide and just realize that film literature is all subjective, and that, you know what, when a DC film does well, Marvel films do well. Like, it just makes
the rising tide floats.
Yeah, it flies up. So
Blade made a lot of good movies happen, right? I mean, no matter what you think of Wesley Snipes personally, Blade made a lot of good movies happen. So Blade's success helped make other movies.
Funny thing is, there's a lot of people I know that don't realize that that's a comic book film. You know,
well, because it wasn't, right? It was like a vampire movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was a vampire movie, but it's a comic book movie. Mystery Men. Mystery Men started in Flaming Carrot Comics.
Yeah.
That's a comic. There's a lot of comic book movies out there, and Image has a dozen properties. There's a Descender film coming out.
Yeah.
People aren't going to realize Descender is a comic book movie. It just doesn't seem like it. Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't realize that what a comic book. I mean, Constantine doesn't strike you as a comic book.
No.
There's no capes. There's no strongman suit with the tights over top of your pants.
But I like but yeah, anyway, so what I was getting at is that we should just stop and realize that, like, instead of being like, oh, your film sucked, be like, or be more like positive consider, like,
support them.
You know, like, man, it sucks. You know, it would have been nice to have seen this X, Y, and Z happen with this character or whatever, because the instant that too many comic book films start to just plunge, like, that's when it's over. That's when we stop seeing.
As comic book fans, we do a good job of turning around and eating our own tails.
Yeah.
And fighting amongst each other. But I mean, seeing a better class of X-Men film is good for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because a good X-Men film means maybe as a Teen Titans fan, I might get my Teen Titans film at long last, right? And that's what I just think that there are superhero movies that get bad reviews. I still go see them in the theater. They're you know, people say they're review proof. Well, they are review proof because I'm going to go no matter what. If a comic creator, when I hear about John Bogdanov, who is a comic book artist, he left comic books to go do like storyboards for movies. I go see movies if I know he did the storyboards on them. Like, I'll give it, just because I think you support these creators because at least it's something different, right?
Yeah.
Make more comic book movies and we'll get more Old Man Logans, more Deadpools, right? R-rated successful comic book movies that I never would have thought would work.
Oh,
but they work. So just that you're going to get good movies, you're going to get bad movies, but let's make superhero a genre that just keeps comic book movies a genre that just keeps doing it. Because also too, when Jeff Lemire, who's a Canadian writer, when his property gets a movie made from it, Jeff Lemire makes a bunch of money, which means Jeff Lemire doesn't have to write stories people want him to. He can be free to be a creator who expresses himself.
Yeah.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
To see comic book creators making money and being able to do whatever stories they want.
Yeah. Well,
that's a heck of a note to end on. Hey?
Yeah. So, thanks for joining us. We're here down at Showcase Comics in Lethbridge, talking to Dylan, store manager. And
thanks a lot, Derek. Much appreciated.
And on a quick note before we leave,
I'll pick up Star Wars storm.
Yeah, no, okay. Okay,
Make a Star
so
Wars movie of that.
yeah, so congratulations to Agent. You've been randomly selected to win the copy of this. I'm going to send it out your way. So just send me a private message on my Twitter or Instagram, and I will send this off to you. And so for everybody else, thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit our last video, and we'll see you next time. Stay awesome.